Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a video for you that's maybe a little different, but also kind of the same as it's a disassembly and maintenance video, but I've recently purchased a pocket knife, and this pocket knife is just for my own collection. I've already reviewed it in the past, we're good, but I purchased a pocket knife that I know has been carried pretty heavily. It's been used pretty heavily by a friend who, just, well, likes to carry all of his stuff, likes to use it. I picked it up just because, yeah, it sounded like fun. It sounded like a fun knife for me to have, and but as a result, though, it's got a little bit of wear on it. It's got a little bit, so I want to bring it, sort of back up to snuff. And of course, why is there a PM2 here? The knife I'm actually doing the disassembly on is, of course, something even more practical for your daily life. That would, of course, be the Wee Knives Dresschaton. So, the funny thing about this is I'm not kidding. This was carried and heavily used by a good friend of mine who is, he has a flair for flair, if you will. He is a person who will regularly carry and use things that are a little bit more ridiculous because that's just sort of who he is as a human. And I appreciate him for it every damn day. But as a result, this is a knife that has actually gotten a fair bit of use and carry. And this is a knife that is 100% a purchase for me as a collector. Some of you may recall that in my Blade Show West video, I actually talked about picking up a slightly less dressy version of the Dresschaton. But when he announced, actually he bought it the same show at the same time as I did. But when he announced that he was getting rid of his Dresschaton, he was going to sell it, I went ahead and made the offer, just because at some level I do think this is still sort of a watershed moment in the knife-making history, at least in the world of CNC and production pocket knives. So anyways, that's how this guy has ended up on my plate, and the other version has actually gone on to another friend of mine. Let's go on ahead and take this guy apart. This is a very, very strange knife in that it is sort of an integral, but not quite. The back part here is an integral. This part up front here is attached onto the back. But in theory, I think I only need to take apart. See, you can see evidence of little, bits of grit and such in there. I think I only need to take out this pivot screw here. So I'll go ahead and grab my T8 driver, and I'll go ahead and pop this out of there. And what we should see is everything else popping out soon. Oh, how do we get I think we might actually need to take one of these guys off to get the bearings out, but maybe not. So it's actually been long enough since I disassembled an Eschaton that I'm not actually remembering exactly how this needs to work. But anyways, I'll pop this guy out, and then I'm going to try and use this spring bar tool here to go ahead and push through. There we go. And if you're ever curious about okay, yeah, and see the blade is now kind of come loose, which means, oh, good Lord, this has been used some. But anyways, if you're ever curious about any of the tools I'm using, nickshabazz.com/tools has a full listing of everything. But this is exactly why you want to get up in here and do this sometimes, right? Because a person who carries and heavily uses a pocket knife, even this one, will leave behind schmutz. It will leave behind just various bits of dirt and gunk and such, and it's useful to just go ahead and get it back to factory fresh, so to speak. So that's all I'm doing here. One thing that I actually do like seeing here is the fact that you can see that they masked off the the detent ball path as well as the bearing race as they were doing the etching. And that's going to just make this knife deploy a lot more smoothly and cleanly than than it would have otherwise, with the etching pattern going into the bearing race area. It's a little detail, but it is a nice one to see, especially on a knife this ridiculous. And this knife is patently ridiculous. I know already in the comments people are going, oh my God, Nick, they're going to be telling me the obvious. Nick, that's a completely crazy knife. Why would you ever? Oh my God. And the answer is because it's a completely crazy knife. Although, as I've mentioned a number of times with the Eschaton, knife is sort of a strange term for it, right? This is a design by Elijah Isham, who is a madman, and I say that with all the respect in the world for his work, but he's a freaking nutter. And one of the ways in which that is expressed is in his knife designing, which is, just generally speaking, very, very wild, and I appreciate that. I think I am actually, given that there is a fair bit of gunk in here, I am actually going to take off this scale here and see if I can't sort of access, and I want this scale to come off. Good, I'll pop that loose. Pop that loose. That should allow me to lift this entire scale off. And that should give me full access then to the pivot area. Yeah, okay, see, we've got a little bit more gunk inside here. You can see that this is solid Damascus straight through, which is ridiculous. But, yeah, this is a crazy freaking pocket knife, is I think the way that it boils down, roughly. There is a lot of madness in this, but I love that at some very real level. The Eschaton is a knife that I would never consider for just a practical everyday carry piece. That's not remotely what it is. This is an art knife. And I don't really feel like I got that right the first time I reviewed it. Mind you, I probably said something along those lines, but I think my overall feeling on the Eschaton is, you know, like, wow, this isn't a knife, that's kind of dumb. And in retrospect, I kind of look at it as, wow, this is something that's pushing the definition of what knife can be. That's kind of brilliant, and that's kind of dumb. Right? I think both of those things exist in superposition. This knife is absolutely stupid and absolutely brilliant in roughly equal measure. And I say that with nothing but respect for the designer and for the work put into it. But this is a completely crazy pocket knife. But I also think it is a completely unique one. And that's not something that's super common these days, right? The knife world is suffused with more and more same stuff, even from We Knives, who's the factory that produced this piece alongside Elijah. Well, Elijah was the designer. They produced it themselves. I don't picture Elijah traveling to Guangzhou to hammer one out. But nonetheless, this was a We Knives piece, and in many ways, We Knives is as guilty as any lately in releasing sort of same pieces over and over again. And so I'm very this is a nice reminder of a time and a place where they just gave a little bit more of a damn, right? Where they were really pushing the boundaries of what could be possible with CNC machine pocket knives. And so to that level, I am really, looking back with the power of retrospection, if you will, I'm quite impressed by the knife. I think it is something that we haven't really seen the likes of it since. And maybe we never need to again, right? That's a very real possibility. But I think there is some historical value. That's a really dumb thing to say about a Chinese production knife, right? And actually, it's a dumb thing to say about any production knife. But nonetheless, I think there is something to that, right? If we look at the knife market in the long term, there are probably not going to be that many things that are like this. For better and probably for worse. So anyways, as a result, I feel very strongly like, and I have felt for a little while that, you know, I missed out on the Eschaton. And when I went to Blade Show West, and I'm going to go ahead and use some 10-weight nano oil here, the question is how I want to put this back together. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll do it from this side, I think. This may be dumb, but go ahead and put that there, put a bearing on it, rotate, and the bearing, go ahead and put a little bit of oil on the pivot here. I think this is going to have a much nicer action once it's cleaned out here. Then I'll go ahead and drop on the blade, and I'll put some lubrication into the tent ball holes I'm doing it. But anyways, as I was at Blade West and I saw this, because I'd asked Elijah about the Dresschaton at some point in time, and they were just not really available. There wasn't anybody making them. And as a result, you know, I'd kind of given up on ever getting one. And then when I was at Blade West, I saw the case, and actually Elijah was there, just wandering the show, and was egging me on to this ridiculous purchase. Well, I bought the other one. My buddy bought this one. Nevertheless, yeah, it's a very, very strange piece. And so, although I sold my original one, I always felt a little bit weird about that. Not having sold it necessarily, but just like, did I make the right call there? And then getting an Arrakis was like, oh yeah, that's right. This was wild. This was different. And then, yeah, finally getting the option was nice. And then when he decided to sell his full dress one, it was like, you know what? If I'm going to go crazy, I might as well go all the way crazy. And so that's how this guy ended up on my table. But nonetheless, it's kind of always a fun reminder that even though I said that this was a dumb knife that no one would ever carry, he sure did. This is partly because he's a gigantic human being. And I don't mean that casually. Like, this is a large person. And so I think the scale just fit him much better than it would me. And partly just because, like I said, he's a little extra as a human, and again, with all the love. And I think this just made a lot more sense for him as a daily piece. But nonetheless, it's nice to have, right? And this is purely a piece for me as a collector. This is purely just you know what? I think this is kind of important, and it's going to make me smile having it in my collection in the same way that having the other one did. And I'm very grateful to my buddy, of course, for, giving me the first crack at it, so to speak, rather than selling it down the road to some jerk down the road who wasn't me. So anyways, this is running better. This is running substantially better. Very nice. And so the last thing I want to do, actually, I want to get in. I just noticed a little bit of gunction right there, so I'll just get in here with my Q-tip and clean that out. And then the last step here is to take this guy, put everything back in my tool holder here, and take this guy and just kind of polish it up a little bit, right? I've got everything sort of all set, so I'll just take this guy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some glasses cleaning solution. It's a little bit different than your conventional stuff, but than your rubbing alcohol and such. But what I've noticed is that it tends to really make these sorts of composite titanium materials really pop. So I'm hitting it with that and a microfiber cloth. And the end result, as you can see, is pretty spectacular. This is not going to be to everybody's taste. Oh my God, is it not? I think that's why there were very few of these in the wild. And, frankly, it's almost barely to my taste. But at another level, this is the most ridiculous instantiation of what may be the most ridiculous knife that's been made in a production capacity that I can still respect, right? There people have made a bunch of ridiculous freaking knives, but this is a production knife that is incredibly well done. The mastery of machining and, frankly, of materials in this unit is way up there. I respect the hell out of it, but it's dumb as hell, too. And I have to acknowledge that gray area within myself, right? But nonetheless, anyways, I hope you found this interesting, as well as my musings on the piece here, as well as just a little... I don't know if it was a tutorial so much as just demonstration of what I do when I pick something up brand new and want to get it back up to factory freaking fresh. Boy, that is freaking fire, right? And the fact that you got the two different patterns of the Damascus on this piece versus this one, and that this goes all the way through. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Can't do much about the wear on the clip or anything like that, but that's okay. That's a part of it. In a lot of ways, makes this guy a little bit easier for me to throw in the pocket if I ever felt completely insane, because it's already got a little bit of love to it. So anyways, there you go. I hope this has been interesting to you. And at the very least, keep an eye out for this guy in future collection overviews, and keep an eye on the comments for people going, "Oh my God, Nick, you're the dumbest freaking..." Because you know what? They're right. They are absolutely right. Anyways, hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.